Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I am bringing you the finals of the St. Louis Premier Challenge that took place a while ago back during St. Louis Regionals weekend. Against me is Michael Fladong. He is a fantastic player, won a regional championship back in 2013, and he just finished in the top 4 at St. Louis with this exact team, so I knew he'd be a very, very formidable opponent. Definitely a very strong player, and one that could easily make it to Worlds this season. So, we actually played in the Swiss rounds, and I beat him there, but it was, pretty RNG involved, and I felt like, he definitely deserved a rematch, and he ended up winning every other match, so I was pretty excited to face off against him, since I really felt like he was one of the best players in that tournament, so couldn't have really asked for a better finals opponent. Of course, this is game 1 in a best of 3 set, and, of course, I am doing this because I am currently on vacation, but I still wanted to get daily uploads for you all, so I hope you've enjoyed the past couple of days because I thought they featured some pretty awesome opponents in games. But today we'll be talking about game 1 of the finals. So you see 4 of Michael's Pokemon on screen: Arcanine, Kangaskhan, Thundurus, and Terrakion. The 2 he did not bring were Suicune and Aegislash. That team was very scary right off the bat. He had Intimidate from the Arcanine. Aegislash is a bit annoying to deal with because normally my answer to it is Bisharp, but he's got a lot of ways to beat Bisharp, namely the Kangaskhan and the Terrakion. His Terrakion also had a Focus Sash, and that made things very, very tricky, because it meant like even if I were to win a speed tie against it, since we both have Terrakion, he could take a close combat and KO me back, and I couldn't just, aimlessly bring Gengar because he could Scrappy Fake Out me, he could Taunt or Thunder Wave me with Thundurus, and things would get pretty antsy. So honestly, I did not know exactly what to go with this game, but I decided Suicune and Terrakion would be alright. I also felt like Bisharp was probably the most important Pokemon in this matchup because he had no way to actually hit it for super effective damage that's not like fire type attacks. So I was, my thinking at this point is let's try to conserve this Venusaur because like Terrakion, Thundurus can't do too much against it, nor can Kangaskhan if it doesn't like get a power up punch off. So I'm gonna end up going for Suicune and Terrakion because I really want to try to set up a Tailwind with Bisharp and Venusaur in the back, keeping Heatran and Gengar out of this one. So poor Heatran not making an appearance, but I really felt like Heatran was not the right Pokemon to bring here. So without further ado, let's finally jump into this match. I do apologize that I spent so much time like detailing and previewing all of this, but I feel like it's pretty important for you guys to get some context information because, that does go into the moves I end up making and the moves that I predict for my opponent. So Michael here leads with Thundurus and Terrakion, very reminiscent of VGC 2011 actually, as I go with Suicune and Terrakion, so lots of legendaries here. This first one I actually go for the Quick Guard because I'm expecting a Taunt or a Thunder Wave, but he actually goes for the Close Combat. I thought like the game was over right there and then, but he ends up Close Combating Suicune, predicting a potential Protect there, so I'm glad when I see that Protect doesn't come out, as Thundurus also goes for the Thunderbolt. Now, I know my Suicune is pretty bulky, and what do you know, it hangs on with 12 HP, so a really clutch survival there for my Suicune, as it is able to eat up its Citrus Berry, and more importantly, set up the Tailwind. However, things could have gone better right from the start, because I wasted a turn with Terrakion. I just can't protect this next turn either, so had I just Close Combat or Rock Slide, things would have looked a bit better. Now, here I'm just going to go for the safe Rock Slide and the Scald. There's absolutely nothing he can really do to prevent this, because, Scald at that point at -1 from Terrakion would pick up the knockout. He brings an Arcanine. I'm 100% okay with that because I get a free Scald off in that slot. But he does go for the Thunder Wave against the Suicune, and that makes things a bit dicey here. Terrakion, however, does connect with Rock Slide, hitting both of my opponent's Pokemon for super effective, though not dealing as much as you'd expect because of that Thunder Wave. Suicune, however, unfortunately eats up a Paralysis here, which is definitely unfortunate because had I been able to get the Scald off there, this next turn I could have just Rock Slide Ice Beam. And you see here, because of that paralysis, it allows Michael to make a really clever play. He goes for the Thunder Wave into Terrakion, which is going to proc my Lumberry, and, the whole reason behind that play is because now, because I wasn't able to get that Scald off, Arcanine actually is able to get a Will-O-Wisp off, as you'll see here. Thundurus does eat its Citrus Berry up, so lots of healing here, and, despite Rock Slide and Will-O-Wisp's low accuracy, he is able to connect with the Will-O-Wisp here, and that's really, really big, especially because I knew he had Kangaskhan in the back. So Michael made a fantastic play that turn, and I was definitely a bit upset at myself for allowing that to happen, since I felt like the double target was relatively obvious, and, I could have just made a safer play by protecting and scalding, putting the Arcanine in KO range. And now I'm feeling a bit concerned, because I have Terrakion, I have Suicune, which is, going to faint soon. I've got Bisharp, which really can't deal with Kangaskhan very well. At most, it can get a Life Orb Sucker Punch off, which does around 50%. And I've got Venusaur, but the Thundurus can just spam Thunder Waves, so I don't know, things are looking a bit tricky right now. I end up not protecting with either Pokemon, so I just go for the Close Combat onto Kang and the Scald, trying to get some damage off before one of my Pokemon faints here. He does just go straight for the Fake Out Thunderbolt play, which was his best play, so he loses absolutely nothing out of that. I end up losing Suicune, burning a a turn of Tailwind there, and taking burn damage for Terrakion. So this game is far from over yet, despite how I felt like the first few turns were in my favor. So Venusaur is a pretty appropriate Pokemon to bring in here because it does a pretty good job of checking the Kangaskhan and Thundurus. So I'm going to Mega Evolve right away. And I know that Kangaskhan here doesn't have Fake Out, so he's going to have to stay in here and take a close combat or switch out to Terrakion. So I know I can do a ton of damage to that Kangaskhan slot. Now, I don't think close combat and Giga Drain can knock it out. And the reason why I'm going to go for Giga Drain here is because I felt like he might have returned my Venusaur, so I'm going to try to recover to a point where I can take another return. I do go for the close combat, and I actually get the critical hit there, which is very, very fortunate. You know, I don't think I 100% needed it, but it made things a lot easier, as Kangaskhan does go for the return, so he did double up into my Venusaur there. So as you see there, it did exactly 99 damage, so, you know, the original understanding behind that play was, alright, Kangaskhan can target one of two Pokemon here. It can knock out the Terrakion, and if it does, then Venusaur hangs on, doesn't take any damage, and I get the Giga Drain off. Or it can target down the Venusaur, to which Terrakion hangs around for another turn. So, the game's 3-2 in my favor now, but he still got the Sash Terrakion, and he paralyzed my Venusaur, so a couple of timely Rock Slide flinches here and there, and this game can easily be over. Now, he does not go for the close combat, instead opting to Rock Slide there. Fortunately enough, I do not flinch, and I get a huge close combat off, and that's very, very important in terms of getting damage off, just because I need as much damage as I can right now against Terrakion. If you know, remember that I have Bisharp in the back. Bisharp can't deal with it as well, at all. So he goes for the T-Bolt onto Venusaur, and by a stroke of good luck, I managed to attack through the Paralysis and the Rock Slide. Of course, the chance of flinching is 7/10, and the chance of, of not flinching is 7/10. Chance of not getting fully paralyzed is 3 out of 4. So I had a 21 out of 40, you know, chance of getting an attack off there. So just over 50%. So a real 50-50 there in terms of RNG rolls, but fortunately ends up playing in my favor. I felt like if he actually got that one, there was a good chance he would have been able to actually win this match, given that I had Bisharp in the back. But I'm going to end up KOing his Terrakion. He's not going to be able to do anything 3-on-1, so I do knock out the Thundurus. But at this point, I do realize how bad it is for me to get that Venusaur paralyzed and for that Terrakion to be, you know, putting on so much offense right from the start. So even though I do end up winning game 1 against Michael, you know, it was a very, very close game. Could have easily went the other way if RNG was on his favor. So I'm fully acknowledge that. I'm just very fortunate at this point to have taken a win, especially after turn 1, you know, mispredicting the taunt/thunder wave. And in retrospect, that was a pretty bad play. But yeah, I'm going to end up closing game 1 with a win, but, you know, learned lots of valuable information, and more importantly, learned that I should probably play a bit safer since, I don't know, I got pretty lucky. I shouldn't have allowed Thundurus to get as many paralysis as it really did. So these are things that I'm probably thinking when I'm going into game 2, but, you know, at this point, I'll take what I can get, and I'll try to come up with a better strategy for game 2. Anyway, that is it for today's episode for game 1 in the finals against Michael Flaudong, also known as Primitive VGC, in a very intense best of 3 set. So you're gonna have to watch tomorrow's episode to figure out whether Michael extends it to a 3rd game or whether I am able to take the entire tournament 2-0. Anyway, that's it for this one, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Alright, peace.